Yeah.
Andrew.
How's it going, Lena?
It's going great. I'm so excited to have you join me tonight, Andrew. We have people coming in now. If you're joining us, please let us know. You guys know what to do. Give us your name and let us know where you are watching from. I have a special guest tonight. We have Andrew Dooley. We're going to be talking about a phenomenal resource for children who are grieving. So ask your questions. Andrew said he loved to talk about what he does. So ask your questions, and you guys know that we will get to them as quickly as possible. So for those of you who do not know me, I am Lena Lassiter. I am the founder of Forever Healed. We are a nonprofit, and what we do is we help those who are suffering from pain and loss of any nature. We want to help them to recover, to restore, and to reclaim their lives. I'm also a director in corporate America. Why am I qualified to do this? I'm an advanced grief recovery method specialist. I have my master's in human services with a cognitive and crisis and trauma. I'm an author. And again, you guys know that we do a lot of work with the Richmond City Sheriff's Office, with the Richmond Police Department. And we help our grievers through one-to-one grief recovery classes, group sessions. We do support groups. So it's not about us tonight. It is about Comfort Zone. So we have Andrew Dooley here tonight. He's the regional director for the Mid-Atlantic region for Comfort Zone camps. So again, Andrew, thank you for joining me tonight.
Thank you so much for having me and giving me an opportunity to talk about Comfort Zone. It is something I am passionate about and love to talk about. So very glad to be here.
Hi, Rosalind. Thank you for joining us. Hi, Miss Pat. Thank you for joining us tonight. So, Andrew, I read the Comfort Zone mission, and the mission is to empower children experiencing grief to fully realize their capacity to heal, grow, and lead more fulfilling lives.
Yes, and it sounds similar to your mission. It's all about kind of recovery. It's taking something bad that has happened and moving forward with your grief. So at camp, we give kids the opportunity to interact with their grief, to connect with other kids who've shared a similar experience, which includes like validation for them. We also teach them coping skills and different things to help them with their grief after they leave camp. But it is all about giving them that opportunity to not feel alone, to not feel different, to be a kid again and to have fun, and to move forward so that they are able to lead more fulfilling lives, as you said.
Yeah, that's amazing. And from what I've read, Andrew, so you guys started as a small camp. I believe it was in Virginia, and then you just kind of evolved to this national organization. And if I'm correct, I believe you guys have served over 23,000 children.
You are correct. Yeah, over 23,000.
Wow.
Yeah, and a lot of the growth happened. It did start as a small camp in Virginia as a passion project from our founder, Lynn Hughes, who at the age of 9 lost her mother to a blood clot. It was kind of a freak accident that happened. She was playing tennis. And then about 3 years later, she lost her dad. After that, she went and lived in a couple of different places, and none of them were particularly great places for her to live. Lived with an uncle and aunt. The uncle did not want her to be there, was not quiet about that. But what she found around that time was summer camps, and she absolutely loved it. So she took kind of the worst part of her life, which was her grief, and the best part of her life, which was the summer camps, put them together, and out of that, Comfort Zone was born.
Wow. So to just take that grief and turn it to such a great purpose, and to be able to serve 23,000 children and their families is phenomenal. It's phenomenal.
Yeah.
You also shared with us, Andrew, that you lost your mother at 25, and I feel like that's a very impressionable age. I mean, although you're 25, right? And then an uncle, I believe you said in 1987, and this uncle had 2 children, and you saw the impact of their grief. So that kind of helped you to on this particular journey, right? And serving in this capacity. Is there anything that I missed there, Andrew, that you just want to share?
No, so I've been working at a local place called Snag a Job, and we had a group come in from Chat. I don't know if you all are familiar with them. Great organization, Churchill Activities and Tutoring. We had some kids come in. We taught them a little bit about like interviewing skills and resume building and things like that to help them for the workforce. It was really cool. I really enjoyed the experience. Wanted to do more volunteer work, and one of my coworkers told me about Comfort Zone Camp. And again, with the loss of my mom, and then seeing the impact that the loss of my uncle had on my cousins, it was a massive impact on them. In fact, my older cousin, who was I think 11 or 12 at the time, it's like she just froze in time, and she's like over 50 now. She struggles with her relationships with her kids. She's immature. It really, I think it was a foundational thing for her that she was never really able to get past. So I saw the impact that it had on her, my other cousin as well, and then knew that, with my own loss and how painful that was for me, this was something I was very, very interested in getting involved with. So super glad I started that back in 2009 as a big buddy, where they match you one-to-one with the little buddy at camp, and they have a whole matching process where they look at all of your interests and hobbies. If you have a loss type, you don't have to have one, but if you do, they might factor that in. And they'll kind of take all of that information together, and then they'll look at your little buddy, and they lock themselves in a room for a couple of days, and they read through all the profiles of our campers, all the profiles of our big buddies, and they make these really cool matches, very thoughtful about everything that we do. And then you come out to camp and you meet this kid who you typically have a lot in common with, so it allows you to start bonding and connecting with these kids. We call it turbo bonding, and it's really neat. Sometimes we'll get like these amazing matches. Camper will come out and they're like the mini me of their big buddy. They may be wearing the same, Batman hoodie, or both wearing a Pokemon Pikachu hat or something crazy. And they just get there and they just start talking and connecting right away because they have all these interests and similar personality types. So it's a really cool process. Did my first camp back in 2009, fell in love with it. It makes a difference. We have a lot of our campers that have been campers that now come back to volunteer because they were so moved by the experience and they want to give back to others in the same way that their big buddies kind of helped them. And a lot of them will tell you, it changed my life. It saved my life. I don't think I would be here without it. I wouldn't be the person I am today without Comfort Zone. So that's something that's really drawn me to it and made me as passionate as I am about it. And then another side part of that is it's so incredibly rewarding, but it's also a lot of fun. I tell people I volunteered at a grief camp and they're like, I don't know how you can do that. That seems tough. But it is also a summer camp. And so there are a lot of fun elements kind of built in, which makes it kind of a neat place to be.
Yeah. And, we were talking before we actually, went live that, I share often, Andrew, with, our listeners, our clients, that we were taught at a very young age to avoid hurtful or painful feelings, right, at all costs. Because we're taught how to acquire things, right? But no one really gives us a handbook or tell us what to do when we lose them. And then when we lose them, sometimes we hear unhelpful and sometimes hurtful, comments, because you and I both know that, that the process of grieving is going to look different from individual to individual, right? Based on relationships and what was lost and, and things of that nature. So for children, it can be challenging to understand what they're going through, let alone, right, trying to articulate them. So I have always been grateful for Comfort Zone Camp and the services that you guys offer.
Yeah. And another thing that Comfort Zone does too, is it allows kids, it gives them the opportunity to be able to articulate those feelings, right? They have the opportunity in camp. We do healing circles. So they are peer-based, age-based support groups that meet 4 times throughout the weekend. And in those groups, they have the opportunity to talk about their loved one, talk about their loss, the way their loved one passed away, how life has changed, what's difficult, what sucks about it. And we give them that opportunity to kind of talk about that. So they are able to find their voice at camp and be able to talk about that. I see a question popping up. How can you get involved? So you can go to our website, www.comfortzonecamp.org. And there is a thing for donate, refer kids, and to volunteer. So check that out. And then you can fill out a volunteer inquiry. One of our volunteer coordinators will reach out and see if you have any questions, explain any more about camp, and then help you get involved. There is a training that is involved, and we do have background checks to make sure that all of our campers are safe. So great question. Thank you for that. Yeah.
Thank you for your question. Okay. So Andrew, you talked about the peer support groups. You talked about you guys still have fun. So what other services do you provide to the children at camp?
Yeah, so the whole schedule is designed with intent. So it's very deliberate. We know that as adults, we can sit around and talk about heavy subjects for hours on end. Kids, they can't do that, right? It's not the way that they grieve. They grieve in short bursts. So we will have kind of the more impactful moments where they're able to interact with their grief a little bit. And then we back that up with these kind of mindless, fun, silly activities. So we have like icebreaker games. We have free time. We have an evening activity where this past weekend, it was minute to win it. So all these like little games, and we split everybody up in their healing circles. You kind of compete. One of them was we had frozen T-shirts. You had to unfreeze. You had to kind of like rip open the T-shirts and put it on, and whoever did that first was the winner. So we have all these like crazy fun games. And then we go from there. We do some repeat after me songs. We have s'mores, and then we have our circle of remembrance. And this is Saturday night. It's kind of one of the emotional high points of the weekend, where campers have the opportunity to write a note to their loved one that they go up with their healing circle around the fire, and they're able to place in the fire. And the idea is that the smoke and the ashes and the fire and flames and everything helps it rise up to their loved ones, so they're able to sort of commune with them, which is a really important thing, especially because a number of our campers may not have had the opportunity to say goodbye.
Right.
So it's a way for them to do that. But you can see we have these kind of more emotional, impactful moments, and we have a bunch of silly, fun stuff. And we kind of do that intentionally, and it kind of creates this little bit of a flow for the campers that really works out well.
That's excellent. That's awesome. Is there a fee, Andrew, for the participants?
Great question. It is completely free. So all of our camps are completely free to the campers. We are all donation based. So we operate on donations. Individual giving is our largest source of donations, which is awesome. It means that there are a lot of wonderful people in the world who believe in this and want to see grieving children be supported. So we're so grateful for the people that do help us. We also work with a lot of partnership camps who bring us out to serve their different communities. For example, I am in Utah right now. We're partnering with Intermountain Healthcare. So we did a camp this previous weekend. We'll be doing another camp out here this upcoming weekend, working for the kids that are out here. And I know something else we had talked about before we started was kind of the footprint of where you are. So I don't know exactly where everybody is tonight that's on here kind of watching, but just to give you all a little bit better sense of our footprint, we have camps coast to coast. So we have camps in California, Florida, Utah, obviously, North Carolina, West Virginia, New Jersey, New York, Massachusetts. We are West or East Coast heavy because that's kind of where we started in Richmond, Virginia. But we do camps all over the place. I know, Lena, you'd mentioned some people even dialing in from California at times. So for those folks, we do have a camp coming up second weekend in November. So if people are interested in that, and all of our schedule is on our website. So that's same www.comfortzonecamp.org. People can go and check that out. My information is on there somewhere. Feel free to email me. I don't know, Lena, if you have a way to post that, or I can even put that in the chat. If people want that, they can reach out to me directly, and
okay.
And I can answer any questions or direct them however they want, whether it's if they need, they want to refer campers, or if they want to get involved from volunteering, or if they want to donate, because those are kind of the three main buckets that really allow us to make sure that we're serving all the kids that we can.
Awesome. So guys, California, they're not just here in Virginia. So go to comfortzonecamp.org. So Registration, Andrew.
Yes.
So registration, how does that work?
Yeah. So people will fill out an application online, and to kind of cover a couple of little details. Our camp is for kids 7 to 17, 18 if they're still in high school, and they are able to come out to camp. It's a weekend long camp. They're able to come out once a year, but we also invite them to come back year after year. So a really cool part of that is campers can come back out if they had a really good match with their big buddy. They're able to request them, and if they request a big buddy, we will reach out to that big buddy to say, hey, you know, Michael really enjoyed your connection last year. He's requested you again. Are you available for that camp? And if so, we will try and honor those kind of big buddy requests. We do look for this. We like to have campers wait at least 3 months. I know a lot of times when there is a loss, we want so badly to jump in and help them immediately because we know that they're in the greatest pain in that initial stage, but they're not able to really process their loss immediately and the way that camp allows them to do. And another thing with camp is a lot of it is talking about the ways in which their lives have changed since their loss. So if it's immediately afterward, they're not going to really be able to participate in those conversations in the same kind of way. So we have them kind of wait a little bit. Trying to remember if there are any other details to kind of mention with that. But yeah, so 7 to 17, and they would just complete a registration online. We have our wonderful, wonderful youth and family coordinators. So they help walk all of our families through these processes. I can tell you that they are some of the warmest, most compassionate people. They're absolute experts and professionals at what they do, and they do such a great job of bringing in these parents who a lot of times are nervous. You know, these families are a little bit fragile. They've had their own loss. So the parents and guardians that are reaching out to us are coming to us in a state where they're grieving as well, and worried about trusting somebody to take care of their kids for a weekend. So they do a really good job of answering all the questions and making them feel comfortable with the process and getting them out to camp and making sure that all of our campers are appropriate and prepared for camp so that they can have the best experience possible. And another thing to our camp is typically for kids who have lost a parent, guardian, or sibling. However, a lot of times it might be a grandparent that they live with. So one of that might be their guardian. Right. We've also extended it to if it's like a very close friend loss. We know that suicide rates have increased over the last several years. More and more kids are losing friends to suicide, and we want to make sure the Comfort Zone is a place where they can come to receive support for those losses as well. Another thing that we've seen increasing over the last few years, overdose losses. So something that we're doing this year, one of our partners, ALH, A Little Hope Foundation up in New Jersey, we've been running a suicide-specific loss for them for years, where everybody that attends has a suicide loss, which has its own different elements that make it a little bit different from some of the other losses.
Right.
To really connect and bond on a more granular level on those specific types of losses. And this is going to be our first year we're running one for overdose losses. So it's tragic that camp needs to exist, but it does. And we're really glad that we're going to be able to offer that and help these families that have experienced a loss to overdose.
So Andrew, talk to us about, so when the parents go online or whomever go online to register the children for the camp, is there a maximum amount of students or children that you will allow to come through the program, or like what's the selection process? I guess it's a better question for you. Is there a selection process?
That's a great question. Yeah, and so we typically have, and it kind of depends. So on the campsite, so the location might dictate that a little bit. And also might be our partners, right? So it costs more to run a camp with 60 campers versus a camp with 50 campers. So some of them want to run a 50 camper. We've got one that we just did in California 2 weeks ago. They would love to see if they can bump their overall numbers up to 70. Typically, we're looking around 60 to 65 is for most of our traditional programs about where we get them. So we do operate on wait list. Is typically the first come, first serve. We do have a screening process. So different details within a camper's background might necessitate that we reach out and have one of our clinical folks do a screening just to make sure that, one, they're appropriate for camp, because we want to make sure that they're, again, safe for themselves and others, but also that they are in a position where they can get the most out of it. It never means no. We don't tell campers no. It might mean not right now. We need to give it a little bit more time. Maybe let your you just started therapy. Maybe we need to let you kind of work through that a little bit more. Sometimes there are bigger things than a person's grief that they're dealing with. And if that's kind of like further down on that list, they may really benefit from working on those other issues first before they come to us to work on that. But we very rarely, not have people out to camp, but we do that for their safety and success of their experience. So that's part of the process as well. And then we do a whole part of our matching, the way we set up our healing circles. So we will look at age breakout, loss type. So a lot of times as we're putting these groups together, again, we know that suicide loss has some different elements to it. And if we have a camper that comes out and that's their loss and they're the only one in that group, they could feel, even at Comfort Zone Camp, like one of the big things we do is that they feel not alone. So at school and all, they may be walking down the halls feeling like they're very different. They don't know anybody else that has had a loss. So at camp, one of the big takeaways for them is looking around at all of these campers and a lot of our volunteers and knowing, wow, everybody here gets it. Everybody knows what this is like to lose somebody. I'm not alone. I'm not different. I'm not the kid with the scarlet letter D for death on my forehead walking down the hallways that nobody wants to, because they don't know how to talk to me. So I can't connect. And then with the suicide losses, if they're the only ones, sometimes they can feel a little bit out of place. So we are mindful of that. So we will try and have another camper in that group that has a suicide loss, or we will look at our big buddies and their loss types, and we'll try and bring in somebody that can relate to that and give them an opportunity to be like, hey, I lost somebody to suicide too, and it was really tough for me. So it's all about creating this really safe space for our campers where they can feel heard, understood, seen. It's very, very deliberate. We call it the camp bubble. So it's technology free, which some of you might be shocked at how we are able to maintain that. But it is a technology free weekend. And as a volunteer, as an adult, I love unplugging. It feels so good and healthy, and you're able to just be present and connect with other people. The campers have the same thing. And then we also have pins that we give out throughout the weekend for what we call pin-worthy moments. So if you do something brave, like maybe sharing your story, or you do a zip line or something crazy that you were a little bit nervous to do, we might give them a pin. Or if you support somebody else, we might give them one of these pins. So it's positive reinforcement all weekend long, encouragement, support all weekend long. And it creates this space where these kids can feel so safe. And not all of our kids want to be there on Friday. But most of them, even the ones that, didn't want to get out of the car, like, I don't want to do this. They're arguing with mom, please don't make me stay. I don't want to do this and complain. At the end of the weekend, typically they're like, I don't want to go. I'm not ready to leave yet. I want to hang out with my friends a little bit longer. So my little buddy this past weekend, he came into it and he was like, I don't want to be here. My mom made me come. And, by Sunday, he was like, I don't know if I'd come back. He's like, but it was pretty fun. Right. So even he like came around and kind of opened up, and it's just an amazing experience that these kids have. So.
Yeah, because even as adults, sometimes we don't realize, right, that we need some type of program or just some help sometimes, right, to cope with our grief. So these children, they feel like they're being forced to do something that they don't want to do, and look how beneficial it is. So, Mama Shirley, yes. So your comment is just perfect right now. This program is needed today. It is like never before. It definitely is a blessing. So as you can hear, the kids sometimes, go kicking and screaming. But I heard earlier that they also come back and they give back and they serve, when they're older.
Thank you, Rosalind. Yeah, it's great. So one of the centerpieces of our program are those matches with the big buddies. And what's neat is they're able to come back year after year. So sometimes they can request their same big buddy. If they really like the big buddy they were matched to, they can request that. So I've had campers who I knew at 10 years old, little kid here, now 22 years old. He goes to UVA, comes out and volunteers at camps. He'll text me and be like, hey, this girl said this. What should I text back? Right. So we have these really cool relationships that we're able to have. I go to graduation for some of my little buddies, stay in touch with them. And it really creates this cool, strong bond that you're able to take. And that's not expected out of our volunteers. Not all of our volunteers do that. I don't connect with every single one of my little buddies. I always leave that up to them. But when it happens, it is a pretty cool thing where you're able to have these relationships years and years and years and see them grow. And it's just a really, really neat part of the project too.
That's what I was going to say. You just kind of building the safe place. I heard you say it a couple of times, that it's a safe place for them. But again, you're kind of building those relationships with them. And I think that it's awesome that they come back and they want to give back. I did read on your annual report because someone talked about the program being needed. And I want to talk about why it is needed. And I want to make sure that I do this justice. So I'm going to read it. So this was in Comfort Zones, their annual report. And it says, why camp matters. Nationally, 1 in 13 children lose a parent or sibling before the age of 18. Children with unaddressed grief are 5 times more likely to die by suicide, 9 times more likely to drop out of high school, 10 times more likely to engage in substance abuse, and 20 times more likely to have behavioral disorders. So some of these statistics came from the Census Bureau, Rainbows for Children, but we talk about this program being needed. That's why it's needed.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. And that's if left unaddressed.
If left unaddressed, yes.
If it is addressed, what's interesting, there's another volunteer who loves to talk about, and I don't remember the stat, but it's like some number of like a high percentage of the people that show up in an encyclopedia. So typically people that have had a huge impact on the world are people who have had losses. So I think one thing that having a significant loss like this does is it changes your perspective. It allows you to, one, understand that these kind of things happen. A lot of our campers become more mature, and they have to, right? They grow up a little bit faster because of some of their experiences. And a lot of them, through their experience with Comfort Zone, take away this confidence with them. And they go out and they do things in their communities, whether they go and do stuff to raise money for camp, or they go out and connect and find other kids at their school and say, hey, this really helped me. Or they'll start different foundations. Like it's really incredible to see the impact and see how successful a lot of these kids are that have had a loss if they have the proper support in place. So it's an interesting thing. Yeah.
Yeah. I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. I was sharing with Andrew that I remember, I think I was 12 years old, and a friend of mine, died. We were in middle school, and it was this almost like, we didn't talk about it back then, and we have definitely come a long way. Again, forever grateful for Comfort Zone Camp. I can't say that enough tonight. But it was almost like, yep, he died. You go to the service, nobody talked about it. And then I went to school and he just wasn't there. Right. And seeing that empty desk, Andrew, in that chair, it would just trigger me. But I didn't understand that, I was grieving, because we just don't talk about it with children. And I have some adult clients who will say, well, I haven't cried because I want to be strong for my kids. Mm-hmm. And I always say, well, what are you teaching them?
Mm-hmm.
Right. We're teaching them that it's not okay to cry, or it's not okay, to show emotions. And grief just means that we loved.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a dirty word.
Yeah, and you're so right about that. And we talk about that a lot at camp. We let the kids know that this is a safe place to show your emotion. Everybody here understands it because in our culture, it is difficult for people to show emotion and not appear weak. So a lot of times they'll avoid doing that. And we were also talking a little bit before the show about expectations for campers on how they grieve.
Yes.
Right? So some of our campers will come in and they'll say, my mom's giving me a hard time, or we'll read it in the paperwork. The parents might say, hey, we don't think they're grieving because we never see them cry. And or sometimes we'll have campers where somebody tells them, all right, it's been enough. It's been long enough. You need to get over it and move on. So it's just one of those things where, giving them space to grieve in the way that makes sense for them and validating the fact that it's okay. However you're grieving is okay. You did mention something earlier about moving away and avoiding dealing with grief. And we know that when you do that, it just stays inside you. So you kind of bottle it up and it stays inside you. It's going to come out in different ways. And what happens is it comes out in more erratic ways that we can't control. It's coming out sideways. It's coming out at different times. and we might not understand some of the behaviors that come along with it. So moving towards your grief is actually a way to kind of work through it, to move through it, and to embrace it. And one of the things that's really great about the campers being able to share their story is every time they share their story, they get a little bit lighter, right? It gets a little bit easier to tell. It depowers it a little bit and makes it a little easier. I, again, lost my mom when I was 25. It's been years. I do Comfort Zone Camp. I've talked about my loss there. I've done we have a big buddy share where one of our volunteers will talk about their loss in the beginning of the weekend. And I've done that, and I'm so comfortable with my loss. Now I can talk about my mom passing away very easily. It doesn't mean that I don't miss her, and that doesn't mean that I don't have days where I get emotional or it hits me because I'm feeling like, oh man, I could really use her here for this. But it does get easier as you go along with it, as long as you're moving towards it and kind of moving through it and kind of working through it. So definitely recommend that. And that's one of the things that Comfort Zone does, is it gives them space to do that.
Yeah, that's what we always say. Look, you can't go around it, under it, just go through it. I had a friend that always tell me, like, it's okay to sit in the puddle. It's okay. Sit in the puddle, sit in those emotions. You said something too that's going to stick with me. We were talking about the expectations. And I have shared with you guys, right, that grief is going to be unique and individual depending on our relationship, right, to who and what was lost. So Andrew, was also kind of attesting to that. He was saying, like, you could have a child there who maybe that parent wasn't, involved in their lives, right? So they're going to grieve a little bit differently than a child whose parent was in their life constantly, right? And they had a better relationship. So we can't put our expectations, on these children or anyone, for that matter, right? To say how long they should be grieving or how they should be grieving. It is unique and individual. So the do's and don'ts, please let's not put our expectations on our children when they are grieving.
Yeah, I love that you said it, because that is something we talk about in our volunteer training. It's something we talk about on Fridays when we do our little volunteer meeting at the beginning of the weekend before the campers arrive. Is leave your expectations at the door, meet the camper where they are. It's great if our campers share. We love to see it. We know that it's helpful for them. However, it's not necessary for them to share it in order to have an amazing experience and to get a lot out of camp. Sometimes our kids, again, they come back year after year. They may come out the first year, not say anything, right? And then maybe next year they say a little bit, and then maybe it's the third year they come out and they just really open up about it. So it's neat to be able to have that and know that that's not what they need. So I love that you kind of talked about the leaving the expectations at the door.
Yeah, I don't know about you guys, but I think this is a great resource. They are awesome. I have been wanting you guys to come up with me for quite some time, Andrew. So I'm glad that we were able to make this happen. Listen, he's in Utah right now, at camp. So again, if you want to volunteer, if you want information about registration, I'm going to put their information back up again. You can still ask questions if you have it before we wrap up. I want to make sure that I do you justice, Andrew, here. So there's a wait. There's 60 to 65 participants. First come, first serve. So there may be a wait list. He also said that we want to wait 3 months before signing the children up for camp. There is no fee for the participants. And Andrew, remind us again of the ages, because you said 18 if they're still in high school, right?
Yes. Yeah. 7 to 17, 18 if they're still in high school.
Okay. 7 to 17, 18 if they are still in high school. Mm-hmm. If you have been blessed by this broadcast tonight, please share it. If you know someone who could benefit from this phenomenal resource, please share it. Let's get the word out. It sounds like it's already out. They serve 23,000 children and families, but let's just make sure everyone knows about Comfort Zone, www.comfortzonecamp.org. And here is Andrew's information. Again, so this will be a part of the broadcast. So for those of you who are watching the replay, this information is here. For those of you who are watching the replay, if you still have questions, please ask the questions and I can reach out to Andrew, or you can reach out to him directly to respond to your questions.
And a couple of other quick little notes of things I'm just thinking about, loose ends. We do have a parent program at some of our camps. So at some of those camps, the parents are able to go, and it's really, really great because when they leave camp, they're able to connect a lot more with their camper, with their child. And it's a wonderful program for them and it's very similar. It's a summer camp. You're staying in the cabins. You're doing the almost the identical thing. There's a challenge course. There's free time. So very similar type of setup with that. We do need volunteers. We especially need male volunteers. It's something we struggle with. I think males have a harder time putting themselves in situations where they may be a little bit vulnerable. So please, if you're a male and you're kind of thinking about it on the fence, please come out and get involved. It is a lot of fun. It's very, very rewarding. And we have campers of color. We need volunteers of color. We know that they will connect more with somebody who looks like them, right? Somebody they can relate to better. So please come out and volunteer and support our campers in any capacity that you can. We'd love to have you out at camp. Thank you again so much, Lena, for having me and letting me gush about all that is Comfort Zone, because I truly am passionate about it.
Absolutely, Andrea. You can come back anytime, and you let me know how we at Forever Healed can help support you, continue to get the word out. I'm a huge fan of what you guys, do, a believer in what you do. I appreciate, what you do for these children. An excellent resource. Yes, they are, Ms. Hawkins. So again, what you can do for me, please share this video. Also, he said something. I'm going to reiterate it. Listen, even in the African-American community, right, we don't talk a whole lot about our loss. We don't talk about our grief. So let's share this. We need some male volunteers, right? So share it, guys, get the word out. Let's get them the volunteers and the resources that they need to be able to serve all children, right? So they have somebody that look like them that they can, relate to. So let's help Andrew there. Help me, please, get the word out. Let's share. So Andrew, thank you again. Whatever we can do here at Forever Healed to help support you, push a vision, whatever it is, let me know. Excellent resource. Thank you for what you do. I really appreciate you jumping on with me tonight. Again, he's in Utah, y'all. He's at camp. So thank you. I really enjoyed our conversation.
Yeah. Let
me know what we can do.
Absolutely. And if anybody has questions, I'm happy to hang out for a minute or so and answer any questions anybody has. But I really appreciate you having me on tonight to be able to connect with everybody.
Someone said they just shared it on their page. Thank you. Thank you so much, guys. All right. I don't see any further questions. I think you did an awesome job, Andrew.
Well, I really enjoyed this. It was a great conversation, Lena. And I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and we'll connect after this.
You too. Thanks, guys. Have peace of rest tonight.
Take care.
All right. Good night.